I waited almost a year to get these books back from CGC, and I will never do that again. Hey there, today I have a CGC unboxing video, and in this video I'm going to open up this order that I sent to CGC over 11 months ago. Now, it wasn't all, I guess, CGC's fault for the delay. It really had to do with the fact that I sent these through CCS. Now, that's the part that I think I've realized I will never do again. I'm now of the belief that the extra time that you have to wait for CCS to do their part is not worth the investment. It's not necessarily the cheapest game in town. It's not necessarily the most expensive that's going to perform a dry cleaning on your books and press them. But the turnaround time is pure insanity. I kind of estimated when it's all said and done that based on the current CGC turnaround times, CCS probably added 9 months to my order in terms of me having to wait for my books to come back to me. And it did become sort of this weird feeling where I just wanted my books back. I didn't even care if they were graded at this point because they were gone so long. But I think ultimately that was my lesson learned, is either press the books yourself or find a third party that's not affiliated with CGC. The way that I was looking at it was I was looking at it from a kind of a cost perspective, where I'd rather send the books to one place and let CCS handle the transition of the books from CCS to CGC instead of having to mail my books to a third-party presser. But what I'm doing now is I'm paying for the shipping to send books to a presser, and then I'm paying additional money for them to forward my books on to CGC on my behalf. So I feel like that's the next best thing, aside from me trying to press and clean my own books, is to have a third-party presser go ahead and do the forwarding for me. And the turnaround time for either pressing books yourself or using a third party is absolutely less than 9 months. So I think that that's just kind of what I've decided, is to never use CCS again, regardless of any opinions on quality control, the quality of the press, whether or not it was actually pressed or not. I don't really have an opinion on that. I trust that the work is getting done. I'm going to check out these books and look at the grades, and I'm going to evaluate the books based on what I thought the condition was before I sent them, to see if it was even worth it to have it go through CCS at all. So I just feel like I'm done with CCS. Now, I have arrived at this decision, and I have one more order at CGC that I did run through CCS, and that was my set of books that I sent in for the Todd McFarlane Signature Series. I did run those through CCS, but even that, I don't believe that I would ever use that service again. So now it's time to open this box and take a look at the books that I got from CGC. I'm particularly interested in this set of books. These are all Silver Age books. It was one of those things where I just didn't trust myself to press these books on my own. I feel like even in the last 11 months, my skills with pressing maybe are not at the level where I am fully comfortable pressing a Silver Age book myself, but I think I'm much closer to that than I was 11 months ago, and I just wanted a third party to handle these books. So I'm really interested to see how they turned out. So let's get these slabs out of the box and take a look. Okay, now, full disclosure, I have seen the grades. I waited, I know it was like, well, if you waited 11 months, why couldn't you wait another couple of weeks for the shipment to arrive? I think I found out the grades, maybe not a couple weeks, maybe a week, week and a half. I couldn't help myself. These were older books. These were books that had kind of a story as far as how I acquired each of them. They were all acquired within the last few years, in sort of what I'm calling the pandemic era of collecting. It's when I re-entered the hobby back in 2019. And I was so curious to know how CCS worked out in this case. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pretend. I'm going to take each book out of the box. I'm going to do what other CGC unboxers and YouTubers do and just like pretend, like try and come up with some sort of shocked face or look. So I hope you enjoy that as we go through it. But I've seen the grades, I know what they are, but I do want to talk about each one and kind of review a little bit as far as what I thought the grade was going to be versus what grade it got. And then I'm going to show you at the end of this video as well kind of the breakdown in terms of my return on investment and what it cost me in the end to ultimately ship the books, get them pressed, get them graded, and so on. So you can kind of see, because I was actually quite surprised, and it's something that I think I just lose track of. It's exciting to send books in for grading, and when I went back and actually looked at my total cost, it really made me question whether or not I should have sent some of these books in, or in terms of the condition and the books themselves. And I just found it interesting, so I'll share those numbers with you at the end. But let's get to it. Let's take a look, and I'm gonna randomly pick a book, and we'll show you the grade. So this is Submariner 39 from 1971, and I got this book from Mile High Comics. And when I graded this myself, I thought this was a 9.4, and this book got a 9.0. Oh man, I'm really surprised. I had no idea. So let me take it out of the bag here and see what I could see. I really thought this was a 9.4 because there were basically some non-color breaking spine ticks along the side, and I still see them there. And I really thought the corners were sharp. It's strange. The slab looks really stupid and awful and weird. It's either glue or some sort of like some remnants there. I don't quite know exactly what that is on the slab itself. Really strange. It almost just looks like glue or adhesive. And I'm looking at my other slabs and they don't have it. It's completely clear, but there's a whole outline. So that looks really awful. It's weird. It's like there's glue or moisture completely around and framed. It framed the book there. So I hope they're not all like that. It's really, really unfortunate and really ugly. And even down here, it's like there's a piece of plastic caught right in there. Right in here, there's a piece of plastic. The slab itself. See the outline I'm talking about of like moisture. I don't know what got the entire book. Very weird, very lame, disappointing all around to get a 9.0 on this book. I really thought that it was in better shape than this, but the case itself is just awful. I love the book regardless, but yeah, just looking at it, and the back looks really crispy and clean. So now I'm like, do I send it back and just get a new holder or have it replaced, or do I just crack it, send it to a different presser, and have them resubmit it? I don't quite know, but yeah, 9.0 off-white to white pages for Submariner 39. All right, I'm gonna randomly grab another book, and how about this one? Here we have Captain America number 112. This is from 1969, a very, very cool Silver Age book. And I picked this one up off of Atomic Avenue, and I was really quite surprised at the condition. I thought the condition was not near mint, but I had the potential to be pressed up into a near mint, I thought. And again, looking at the back of this slab, I can see, again, some of just the quality control issues. I'm not going to talk about it every time, but each of these books, it looks like so far, is suffering from that. So let's see what grade it got. 8.5. No way. I'm so surprised and shocked. This one, I need to do a better job with my acting, but I was certain that this book would... I don't remember it being in this bad of shape. Several color breaking spine ticks. I remember what I loved about this book when I got it, and it does appear as if like the cover is now misaligned from the front. It's not lining up. I don't remember the book having that problem before, so it's almost like the book was, I don't want to say pressed incorrectly, but it just doesn't it doesn't look the same as it did before. Really odd. Still, I love it as an 8.5, but I just thought it had much more potential than this. I think when I had graded it myself, I gave it a 9. And the way that the book looks and the way that I grade and the things that I look for, if the book looked like this, it would not be a 9. I probably would have given it an 8, maybe even a 7.5. Again, the actual slab itself is ugly. I don't know what it's just like it wasn't pressed completely together, the two pieces of plastic. I don't know, I just thought this book had way more potential, and honestly, I don't even know if it's worthy of an 8.5. Not now, anyway. Not with the color breaks and the way that I don't remember. I'm going to have to go back and look at the video and compare, because I remember when I unboxed this, it just didn't look this way. It's just the miswrapped and alignment. I would have been very disappointed had I received it raw and probably set it aside just to keep in the PC. But what it does have going for it is fantastic Jack Kirby cover, and the colors are so striking. So I do love that. From a distance, if you don't look too closely, it looks pretty cool, but disappointed on this one too. All right, how about we go with this one, Fantastic Four, number 77 from 1960. Now, I remember when I first got this book, I got this from Heritage Auctions, and I got it in a lot of books where it was like a fine or a fine plus lot of Fantastic Four books. And when you get those lots from Heritage, typically what happens is there's a book or two that they throw in that's maybe a VG, and it pulls the average grade of the lot down. And usually that's not necessarily a key, but it's of all the books in the lot, that's probably the one book that made you look at the lot. So it's always like disappointing when you go on Heritage and you see like, oh look, they've got 3 or 4 of these books. It's all in a lot, and there's that one that I want, and that's in the worst shape. It'll say like stains on the back or something ridiculous. And what I do like about those is if I'm not in the market for that one book, that they try and slip in the lower grade copy. The other books typically are in higher condition, and this one I felt like it was around a 7.5 instead of a 6 or 6.5 as advertised. So I thought this would be worth sending in. I felt like it was going to be in a better grade, or had the potential to be pressed and cleaned up to a better grade. And let's see what it got. 8.0. Oh, wow, I had no idea. That's amazing. So great, very cool. Again, so I'm just assuming every one of these slabs has the same quality problem. So I'm so frustrated with that right now because it's just so ugly. So now I've got to send these back to CGC and get them put together with new holders. It's bizarre that these were just encased a couple weeks ago, and still we're having these sorts of problems. And this one, there's a color breaking fold down here. I did know that there were defects, but I love this cover, and just figured I wanted to get this graded, encapsulated, and put on display. This was another one where as soon as I opened the order from Heritage, the colors just overwhelmed me. I really loved, again, these primary colors, Galactus, everything. Everything just popped. It's got Silver Surfer. There's just a whole lot going on, and this is not a key book. It says Silver Surfer and Psycho Man appearance, Galactus cameo, full page ad for Silver Surfer #1. Really, I mean, they're reaching for stuff. But to get this in an 8.0, off-white to white pages, that's fine. I thought this was great, and I'm looking at the back too, and there's like the corners bent. So I don't know why that didn't come out in the press. So yeah, I think what I'm thinking is, do I send them all back to CGC and get new holders or send these to a presser who will crack, clean, press, and resubmit for me. It'd be an interesting experiment, but again, stay to the end so you can see already I'm pretty heavily invested in these books, so I have to figure out if it would be worth it. But here it is, Fantastic Four 77 and 8.0. Beautiful Jack Kirby art on this cover. Right, I'm going to move the box. Let's see. All right, next up is Amazing Spider-Man number 36 from 1966. Now, this was one of two books that I submitted that I actually bought off of Instagram. When I got back into the hobby, one of the first places that I started looking for books was Instagram. I did a little bit of shopping on eBay and I was really into the live claim sales, but I was watching a lot. I really wasn't buying. And I was just trying to figure out if that was a way that I wanted to purchase books. I didn't really quite understand how it would work in terms of trust or payment or anything like it. It was weird for me just to watch a live stream and then send them cash and hopefully they send me comics. I didn't quite understand how it would work without any sort of e-commerce baked into it. And I watched a lot of these live claim sales early on and found one particular seller that I was kind of into, and he had announced an upcoming sale, and I'd set a budget aside and just wanted to participate. And I took a chance and I bought a handful of books from him, and this was one of them. And I remember cataloging this based on his grade. I didn't really want to regrade it myself. I just trusted, I just wanted to trust his grade and go from there. So the grade that this seller gave this book originally, raw, was a 7.5. And after CCS pressing and CGC grading, it got an 8.0. Amazing. Wow, very cool. Now this one, I did feel like there was a little bit of discoloration, some tanning on this, but a really lovely 8.0 copy. Again, you're talking about from the mid 60s here, and to get an 8.0. There were just little things where, again, I don't know the extent with which CCS actually cares for your book. I had always noticed a little bit of discoloration, either dirt or ink in Spidey's eye. That's still there. So I don't know if it would be worth trying to clean that. But this was one of those books where I really, really liked the structure of the book. And I do see that both of the staples are disappearing, and I don't know if CCS did that or not, but again, the slab looks really, I'm looking at the book, and again, I'm trying to just look at my own grading, and there's some discoloration up here by the G and Amazing. It looks like there's almost like a finger bend up here at the top, and just some overall tanning and foxing. I can't believe this got an 8, honestly. If I were grading it again, like myself, and again, I just used the seller's grade. I never actually regraded this. If you just handed me this book and had me grade it, I'm probably going with a 6.5. That's what it looks like to me, just with the overall. I mean, there's no page tearing, but the spine is really bad, and whitening up here in the corner. So just a lot of different random defects on that one. So now it's like, is it an 8.0? Well, CGC says it is, but I'm just kind of like scratching my head with a lot of these grades. I feel like they're too high at this point. Like these really should all fall in like the 6 to 7, maybe 7.5 if you're being generous. I've got 2 more to go. So we'll finish off the other book that I got off of Instagram, and this is Amazing Spider-Man from 1968, Amazing Spider-Man number 64. And again, a non-key. It's way beyond the first appearance of Vulture, but a fantastic cover. I really loved the look of this book. It has kind of that like newspaper photo style background. And this one, the original seller gave this a 7.0. So I was able to get what I thought was a pretty good deal on this book to get it to acquire it in a 7, especially with it not being a key or anything of real significance. other than sort of like a classic cover with Spidey battling one of his more notable villains. So I thought I would send it in, take a chance, and see what this originally graded 7.0 got. 9.0! Amazing! 2 whole grades, huh? Crazy. Wow, how did that happen? One thing that I loved about this book is, again, I'm like when a comic has this amount of age and the colors look very crisp and pure. To me, the green in the Vulture, Spider-Man's costume, the gray and the white in the background, everything really just popped. It just felt like it was really held together well. The other thing I liked was the wrapping on this one. Everything was very well centered, slightly miswrapped from the back forward, but a lot of times you'll see these where it's so poorly miswrapped that the 1 in front of the 12 cents is gone, so it looks like it's 2 cents. And the fact that you could see the whole corner box there, I really, really thought this had a good shot. So I'm really, really pleased to have this in a 9.0. Great, great book from, again, 1968. Stan Lee on the story of this one, and John Romita, interior, pencils, and cover art. Okay, last book here. And this was probably the one that I was the most interested in and most excited to get back, because I had invested in the book, invested in acquiring it raw. And I remember when I got it, I think that the only thing that I really noticed was a little bit of foxing or discoloration on the back, but it looked really, really great otherwise, I thought. And it is Strange Tales 167 from 1968. And this Steranko cover, I think, is one of his best. And it happened to be sitting on Mile High Comics. Again, I used their discount code to drop it, I think, 60% at the time I purchased it. But even that, it was still a very expensive pickup. But it was listed as near mint. And when I got the book, I was happy with it, but I was kind of going back and forth and thinking about whether or not it was truly near mint. And what I settled on was a 9.2. I gave it a 9.2, and I really thought if someone were to take this book and potentially give it a nice cleaning and a minimal press, that it could move into a 9.4. I think that the cap for it was 9.4, but as is 9.2. And this book got a 9.2. Wow, I was right. That's crazy. I'm so good at guessing grades. Yeah, it looks to have about the same coloring issues. So I doubt CCS did anything with the color. So honestly, and it wasn't at the top, it was towards the bottom. It's something that I can learn. What I thought was the structure of the book was pristine, and it still looks pristine. Like there's nothing wrong with it. The spine is completely intact. There are no spine ticks, none. And I was just shocked when I got the book. When I was looking at the spine, I'm like, there's got to be something wrong with this book. There is a little bit of color rub and softening up here on this corner. But the big problem is down here. In any case, it was definitely discolored down here, and what I was hoping is that CCS would have been able to potentially clean that up for me, and it looks the same. So I think I graded it a 9.2, I sent it in, it got a 9.2, I waited almost a year to get it back, and there was no real improvement. Again, from a presentation perspective, I know that's the thing in comics, it presents well. I would be very proud to display this book. I'm just disappointed because I really did feel like most of the books deserved to get the grade bump, but after somebody truly looked after the books and cared for them and was able to perform some light CPR. I never thought that any of the books really were that drastically damaged. I was just confident that CCS would be able to get that one grade bump up from what I thought the grade was at the time. And I know I said I looked at the grades. I honestly did grade this one 9.2 raw. It just didn't work out for some reason. Still very, very pleased with getting this in a 9.2, getting it encapsulated. Now looking back at the cost, in terms of what I paid to get the book raw, getting it graded. I still think it was a positive value add for me. But speaking of, I want to run you through what I paid for these books, and then also apply the CCS and CGC grading fees and see how much value are we really adding here? Is it worth the time? Is it worth the hassle? I still believe in getting books graded, but you really want to make sure you're getting the right books graded. So let's take a look at these books. Let's run the numbers and see how it worked out. All right, here is that 6-book submission that I sent to CGC. You can see the grades received, and you can see the cost that I ended up estimating for each book. Again, this is door to door, so there's a lot of different acknowledgments, and you can see that the CCS fees to grade these 6 books was $180. Yeah, that much. So if you're out there and you're a presser, or you're pressing at home, or you see me pressing at home and you're like, why did you do that? I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust anyone, honestly. I didn't know anyone at the time. This was 11 months ago. I've met several pressers since then. It was just kind of a timing thing. Not to make excuses, but it was just something I just figured they were my only option at the time, or it was the only option I knew about at the time. And $74 a pop to not just get them clean, but cleaned and pressed. And again, that includes shipping and any other fee related to CGC. I keep track of it here, and it gets built into my cost. So these two summarized numbers, the 420, that's the total charges by CGC. I always love this $5 handling, just gets thrown in there. And then the final summary, $443.95 is what it cost me in total, because I spent $23.75 to ship and insure these books off to CGC. So the average grade received 8.62. They were all off-white to white pages. And then if we move over a little bit to kind of see some of the detail in the data here, I'll go ahead and show the ROI for each book. Now, the total return on investment is about a 53% value add. So in terms of the numbers, in terms of the dollars, that's a $559.73 positive value add. So even with all the money that I spent, and even though some of the grades I received were either lower than expected, or where I saw a potential grade bump, it only got a slight bump. And with all that kind of evening itself out, it still was a financially positive experience. So now, if you look at this, and if you just went up to somebody on the street that knew nothing about comic books and said, if you could spend $1,000 and turn it into $1,600 for a gain of, $500 to $600, I know my math isn't specifically correct here. I'm just generalizing. But I think most people on the street would say, sure, is this a scam, or tell me how? I still feel like it is worth it to get books graded for this very reason. So you're adding all of this potential value to your collection. So when I look at the numbers and I run the numbers, it seems very positive. I mean, it's a 53% gain. Who wouldn't love that in today's economy? But there's still part of me that's disappointed. I'm either disappointed in myself or disappointed in the process. I'm really disappointed in the quality of the actual plastic slab itself. I think it's really hideous. So I'll have to deal with that, which is another headache. But if we're looking at the specific books here and looking at the big winners and losers, I want to point out Submariner 39 for a second. That book had no business going to CGC. Now, I did think it was a 9.4. I did think it was a high grade on its own, and felt like, boy, if I could get some of those non-color breaking spine ticks out, maybe it even could be a 9.6, and there was a lot of value there. But having that book return as a 9.0, it's just not. It was almost a $40 loss, where I could have probably just sent it for grading as is and probably would have still got a 9.0. And then I would have saved $40, and then maybe it would have been a break-even situation. But it's one of those where I really was thinking that CCS could work some magic on a book like that, and it just didn't work out. The Captain America 112 and Fantastic Four 77. I want to give myself a break on Fantastic Four 77. I love that book. I love the cover. I love the Kirby art. It's just, there's so much going on that cover that I love it. So it was almost like If it was going to get a 7.5, 8.0, it got the 8.0. I'm fine with that. I'm happy with that. It is a very nice value add of $73, right around the 50% value add in total, 56.25% to be exact. So it was still a financially wise decision to have it go through this process. But that's a book I'm going to display. Hopefully I'll be able to put it right behind me here. And I love it. I'm going to really just enjoy having that book in my collection. Cap 112, really disappointed. Like you see here, I had expected a grade of 9, was really hoping that it could be moved into a 9.4, and something happened to that book. I don't quite understand. A nice, not modest gain, still $54 at 27.15% in return on my investment there. So still looks pretty good from the financials, but there's just part of me, I know the book, I see the book, and I'm disappointed. The big winner here was Strange Tales 167. My total cost for that, so the cost to acquire the book, plus my total cost to get it cleaned and pressed, shipped back and forth, $256.19 of investment in that book. It has a GPA value in a 9.2 of almost $450. So it was worth it to go through the hassle of buying it raw and putting it through this process instead of just buying it slabbed already. It was a book that I had my eye on for quite some time, so I'm really pleased with that. But I expected it to be increased above the 9.2, where I probably could have saved a few dollars and just not had CCS do anything to it. The biggest ROI gain was Amazing Spider-Man 64. That had a jump from 7.0 to 9.0. Was that CCS? Was that generous CGC grading? I'm trying not to knock it when it worked. You could say, well, hey, you're talking negatively about CCS. Here's a positive where you sent a book to them as a 7.0. It cost you $76.17 to acquire it. Then you're adding the $74 to have it cleaned and pressed. And it has a CGC value in a 9.0 of $318.50. So a nice 112.11% ROI gain on that one. And the last one, a value add of about $108. That's Amazing Spider-Man 36. That jumped from a 7.5 to an 8.0. So not too bad there. Now, again, just kind of thinking about, this process and what it is that I want to do. I'm trying to use my skills in two different ways. One, identify a book that can be improved with a clean and press, but let a professional spend the time on it. I don't trust myself to ever get to the level of somebody who's dedicated to cleaning and pressing, and I have given up on that. I do believe that there are a lot of very, very well-trained professionals that love what they're doing, that are good at what they're doing, and if I can find one and build that trust with them and set up a regular kind of queue or flow with them, I would love to send anywhere from 5 to 10 books to them at some regular frequency, let them forward books to CGC on my behalf, and then just keep everything kind of moving along. I also want to be able to perform what I would call a minor pressing or quick pressing with modern books, new releases, or books that are newspaper print that have just a couple of basic defects, or a lot of the most common thing that I see is the stacking crease. So if I could get like a stacking crease situation completely taken care of on my own, then I would send those books off for grading as well. So I want to leverage my grading skills in that way, but I will not send them to CCS ever again. The amount of time I had to wait to get these books back was absurd. I don't intend to sell these books, so it wasn't like, well, they were worth more while they were in CCS's possession, and therefore I'm upset because I could have sold them 6 months ago and they would have been worth more. I'm not looking to flip books and sell books like that. I think it's just disappointing that there is a service out there like that is so backed up and is so behind, and the quality control is, I'll use a very nice word, terrible. And whatever happened to the slabs in terms of that's on CGC that I have to figure out now. But just again, I'm trying to balance from a numbers perspective, which I'm all about. It looks to be a very positive experience. I you know, you could argue I'm the one that made the poor call and sending Submariner 39 in when I shouldn't have that one, had no business going to CGC. That's on me. But everything else, I feel like I'm just disappointed. It's just I want these services and these companies to be better. And I think for the amount of money that we're all spending, it's not too much to ask to be on your game and deliver the most optimal, efficient, high quality service for the amount of money that we're paying. So I do have to think about this and figure out what am I going to do with the slabs. But I think from a learning perspective, what did I learn with about this specific submission is definitely be more selective with the books that you're sending in and not submit books with the hope of something, right? Like I talk about emotional grading. You cannot will a book into any sort of grade or grade bump or specific grade. You just cannot will it into existence. And I think that I kind of did that. I was excited that I was going to take the plunge and send in these really great Silver Age books because I hadn't really done that before. I hadn't sent a stack of Silver Age books, and I was kind of getting ahead of myself. And looking back, I think that that's something that I really, really need to look at and make sure that if I am accurately grading a book, do not send it in for grading thinking that CGC might grade it higher. And I think that is ultimately a lesson that I've learned. And I think that's what's adding to my disappointment is I need to be better at that. CCS needs to be better. And CGC also needs to be better. We can all get better in this process, but it starts with me, and I need to be much more selective next time. Love to get your thoughts on this. If you wouldn't mind leaving a comment, let me know how you think I did. Am I being too harsh on CCS, CGC? Am I being too hard on myself? I'd love to get your feedback on that. Thanks for watching. Happy collecting, and see you next time.